Every history class teaches you the same things about ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. A stick figure teacher points at a board. The students sit in rows. Nobody questions anything. The pyramids, the pharaohs, the Code of Hammurabi. The invention of writing, the birth of civilization itself. What they don't tell you is that the people building those pyramids, writing those laws, and running those civilizations were doing a significant portion of it while high, not occasionally, not secretly, publicly, religiously, medicinally, and in at least one documented case, they gave narcotics to crying babies to make them sleep. This is the story of drugs in the ancient world. And it is stranger, more sophisticated, and more human than anything your history teacher ever told you. Let's go back 12,000 years. Humanity had just figured out farming. For the first time in history, people were growing food deliberately, settling in one place, building simple homes, building communities. This was the single most important development in human civilization. The second most important development happened almost immediately after: alcohol. Within a few thousand years of learning to grow crops, humans had figured out how to ferment them. A stick figure standing over a bubbling clay pot, looking inside with a curious expression. That is how it started. And once you understand fermentation, everything changes. Because fermentation isn't just about alcohol. It's the beginning of understanding that you can take a natural substance, transform it, and create something with entirely different properties. One shape becomes another. A plain leaf becomes medicine. A grain becomes something that alters how you think, how you feel, how you see the world. That understanding became one of the organizing principles of ancient civilization. The roots of it literally run underneath everything they built. But alcohol was just the beginning. Around 5,000 years ago, a group of nomadic herders called the Yamnaya were moving west across the Eurasian steppe. Multiple stick figures on horseback, moving in a line across wide open land. They were remarkable people, accomplished horsemen, skilled warriors, and almost certainly responsible for spreading one of humanity's oldest recreational habits across the known world: cannabis. The Yamnaya carried hemp with them as they traveled through Europe and into the Near East. A dotted trail moving across a simple map of Eurasia. That is how cannabis spread. Archaeological digs in the Caucasus region have found braziers, ancient burning vessels, containing charred cannabis seeds dating back to 3000 BC and older. These weren't accidental. The seeds were placed deliberately. Someone knelt beside a fire in the dark under a sky full of stars and put those seeds in carefully. The Yamnaya's arrival in Britain 5,000 years ago didn't go peacefully. On one side, peaceful farming stick figures with simple crop rows. On the other side, horseback figures arriving through darkening skies. The original builders of Stonehenge, a settled agricultural people who had lived in Britain for centuries, essentially vanished after the Yamnaya arrived. Stonehenge stands today as a monument built by people whose entire civilization was erased so completely that we don't even know what they called themselves. The Yamnaya replaced them and brought their habits with them. When most people think about ancient Egypt, they think about a civilization of strict order, stick figures marching in perfect rows, simple hierarchy diagrams with pharaohs at the top, stone tablets covered in rules, deities handing laws down from above. They weren't wrong. Egypt was all of those things. They were also enthusiastic cannabis users. The same Egyptian official holding a scroll in one hand, that same hand was holding a cannabis plant in the other. The evidence is concrete. Two of the most important medical documents from ancient Egypt, the Ramses Papyrus and the Ebers Papyrus, both contain detailed descriptions of cannabis as medicine. Two open scrolls, both showing the same green leaf symbol. This was official. This was documented. The Ebers Papyrus alone contained over 700 remedies. Cannabis appears in it repeatedly, not once, not twice, multiple times throughout the entire document. For glaucoma, Egyptian physicians ground cannabis with celery and left the mixture overnight. A stick figure at a stone table, a bowl, a green leaf, a crescent moon in the window. The following morning, patients washed their eyes with it. At sunrise, the physician carefully applied the remedy to the patient's eyes. Modern research has since confirmed that cannabis does reduce intraocular pressure, the primary problem in glaucoma. An Egyptian physician treating a patient's eye in 1500 BC. A modern doctor treating the same condition today. The same result on both sides of the dividing line. They didn't know why it worked. But it worked. The Ebers Papyrus also recommended cannabis ground with honey as a feminine remedy for pain. In 2023, researchers published studies exploring cannabis as a treatment for endometriosis and menstrual pain. Ancient Egyptian physicians arrived at the same conclusion roughly 3,500 years earlier. Cannabis residue has been found in the tomb of Ramses II, one of the most powerful pharaohs in history. Inside the dark tomb, beside the sarcophagus, a faint green glow near the burial goods. This wasn't hidden. The goddess Seshat, deity of wisdom, was depicted with a cannabis leaf above her head as part of her headdress. Bastet, goddess of war, had associations with the plant as well. In ancient Egypt, the line between medicine, religion, and recreation was not a line at all. 3 overlapping circles: medicine, religion, recreation. The cannabis leaf sitting exactly where all 3 meet. Before we had antibiotics, before we had surgery, before we had any real understanding of how the human body worked, we had opium. For 8,000 consecutive years across virtually every major civilization on Earth, opium was the answer to pain. Not one of the answers. The Sumerians called the poppy plant Hul-Gil. It translates directly as happy plant. They were not being subtle. Sumerian tablets from 4000 BC describe the collection of poppy juice in the early morning hours when the latex content is highest. A stick figure in a simple field at sunrise, arm extended to a poppy flower, scoring it carefully. This was not guesswork. This was systematic agricultural knowledge. 3 panels: where to harvest, when to harvest, how to harvest. Refined over generations, they were running what amounts to a pharmaceutical operation before the concept of pharmacy existed. 3 stick figures inside a simple building, 1 grinding, 1 measuring, 1 storing. A pre-pharmacy pharmacy, operating in 4000 BC. The Egyptians took it further. By 1300 BC, Egypt was cultivating opium poppies on a commercial scale in the fields around Thebes. A wide field of simple poppy shapes in rows, multiple figures working. A city silhouette on the horizon. The extract was known as opium thebicum, the opium of Thebes. Egyptian traders, the Phoenicians, and the Minoans distributed it across the Mediterranean to Greece, Carthage, and eventually Europe. Small boats moving in every direction across a simple map, a poppy shape on each vessel. This was not underground trade. This was commerce. Open, documented, organized. Archaeologists have recovered ceramic flasks shaped like poppy capsules, dating to around 1400 BC. A simple poppy capsule shape on the left, an ancient flask on the right, the same proportions, the same silhouette, identical shape. The fact that they were placed in tombs suggests people wanted to take it with them wherever they were going next, packed for the afterlife. Carefully arranged beside the sarcophagus in the dark. Here is the detail that stops most people. In ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, one of the documented uses for opium was quieting crying babies. A diluted preparation was given to infants who wouldn't sleep. A stick figure parent beside a smaller stick figure. A small cup between them. A warm lamp in the background. Standard domestic practice. This was not considered unusual or dangerous. It was practical parenting advice. And shockingly, this practice continued in Europe all the way through the Victorian era. An ancient Egyptian parent on the left. A Victorian-era parent on the right. The same action on both sides of the dividing line. 3,000 years apart. Same thing. We like to think the ancient world was more primitive than us. But a single timeline tells the whole story. 4000 BC on one end, 1900 AD on the other. One continuous bracket. The same practice running without interruption the entire way. We were doing the exact same thing until roughly 150 years ago, before Egypt had access to cannabis from the Yamnaya nomads, before the opium trade routes opened from Mesopotamia. There was something already growing wild along the banks of the Nile. A single stick figure standing at the water's edge, looking towards something just out of frame, not yet revealed. The Blue Lotus, one large simple flower shape, pale blue petals, yellow center, floating on water. Bold text above. This is the reveal. Nymphea caerulea, the sacred blue lily of the Nile, is not a particularly dangerous-looking plant. A clean, simple flower on white background. Beautiful, innocent-looking. It has delicate pale blue flowers that open in the morning and close at night. Morning on the left, lotus open, sun above. Night on the right, lotus closed, moon above. It floats on the surface of the water, simple and serene, gentle curved lines suggesting ripples around it. It was in fact ancient Egypt's earliest psychoactive substance. The effects depend on dosage. One flower at the top, 3 arrows pointing down to 3 different stick figures. Gentle smile, big smile with wavy lines, arms raised with stars around head. Low, medium, high. At low doses, Blue Lotus produces mild relaxation and a sense of well-being. A single stick figure sitting cross-legged. Soft wavy lines, simple flower beside them. Peaceful at higher doses, ancient Egyptians described something they called connection to the divine. A stick figure standing with arms raised, stars around the head. A golden glow circle, the night sky above. Combined with wine, which was the standard delivery method for religious ceremonies, the effects were significantly amplified. A large round jar, multiple lotus flowers submerged inside, wavy steam lines rising. Days of steeping? The Egyptians steeped blue lotus flowers in wine for days before major religious ceremonies. 3 steps across a simple timeline. Fresh lotus dropped in jar sitting, rich dark jar ready, days of preparation. Depictions show figures holding lotus flowers to their faces, inhaling the scent. 2 stick figures in profile pose, Egyptian art style, both holding simple flower shapes to their faces. Reverent, blue lotus is mentioned in the Egyptian Book of the Dead as the lily which shines in the earth. A simple scroll open on a dark background. The lotus visible on the page. A soft golden glow around it. Today, blue lotus is sold as a sleep aid and mild anxiolytic. A simple bottle on a simple shelf. The same plant, a different label. Its active compounds, apomorphine and nuciferine, have genuine pharmacological effects. 1 lotus flower, 2 arrows pointing outward. 2 compound names. Clean diagram. The ancient Egyptians knew it as an aphrodisiac. Modern pharmacology uses it as a dopamine agonist. 2 panels. Gold background on the left, Egyptian figure with lotus, heart shape above. White background on the right, simple brain outline, glowing pathway. Different vocabulary, same plant. Same effects. It's easy to read this history as a story about ancient people finding ways to get intoxicated. And that's part of it, but only part. What you're actually looking at is the beginning of pharmacology. Every single substance in this video has a legitimate modern pharmaceutical application. 3 columns, green leaf to pill bottle, poppy flower to medicine bottle, blue lotus to syringe. Simple downward arrows. All 3, still used today. Cannabis for pain, inflammation, glaucoma, and anxiety. The opium poppy, still the foundation of the most effective painkillers in existence. Apomorphine from blue lotus, now used in modern neurology for Parkinson's disease. Ancient physicians in Egypt and Mesopotamia didn't have chemistry labs or molecular biology or double-blind clinical trials. A simple stone table, plant materials, a grinding bowl, no microscopes, no equipment. Just observation? What they had was thousands of years of careful observation. An ancient stick figure standing before a wall, covered in basic plant diagrams and note symbols. A quill in hand adding a new note. Thousands of years of watching and recording. They watched which plants changed how people felt. They recorded what worked. They recorded what didn't. 2 columns on a simple clay tablet. Worked on the left, didn't work on the right. They were doing empirical science, without the vocabulary for it, without the framework for it. On one side of a dividing line, an ancient physician observing and recording. On the other side, a modern scientist with a clipboard. The same method, a different era. The Assyrian tablet that cataloged over 400 drugs is not a curiosity from a primitive civilization. It is a pharmacopoeia, a systematic medical reference document. A simple clay tablet on the left, a thick modern drug reference book on the right, a bold red equals sign between them. It belongs in the same category as any modern drug reference handbook, just written in cuneiform on clay instead of printed on paper. The next time you take a painkiller, think about the Sumerian farmer who first noticed that scoring a poppy pod in the early morning produced a substance that made pain disappear. On the left, a Sumerian stick figure in a simple poppy field. Eyes wide, amazed. On the right, a modern stick figure opening a medicine cabinet. A dotted line connecting both of them through the dividing line. The next time you hear about a new cannabis-based medicine, remember the Egyptian physician who used it to treat glaucoma 3,500 years before the first modern ophthalmology clinic existed. On the left, an Egyptian physician treating a patient's eyes with a plant remedy. On the right, a modern doctor treating the same condition, the same dotted line connecting them, 3,500 years apart, same treatment. The next time someone describes ancient civilizations as primitive or unsophisticated, remember what they actually built: systematic pharmaceutical operations, documented drug interactions, advanced plant chemistry, all of it. 4,000 years ago. They weren't behind us. They were the beginning of us. And somewhere between their clay tablets and our clinical trials, we forgot to give them credit. A clay tablet on the left. Glowing, a modern clinical document on the right. Clean, an empty gap in the center between them. Credit missing, every medicine we have started as a plant someone tried. A single stick figure sitting cross-legged by a small campfire. One simple acacia tree far to the right. White dot stars appearing one by one above. The fire flickering quietly. They weren't behind us. They were the beginning of us.